have my good friend here with us.
And could I, Madam, what I'd like to do also, Madam Chairman, if that's all right, I would like to give him the time that I have at this moment.
So ordered.
Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. the minority member, and thank the chairman. I thank you for having these hearings. My interest here, of course, is all three commissions, believe it or not, and especially the Denali Commission. And Madam Chairman, this has been an outstanding example of success. I recognize that there's been some question about how they operate, but as Mr. Niedermeyer said, we're a little bit different. All due respect, there's more land east of the Mississippi. That's Alaska. We have over 227 tribes in the state, and of course we have other communities within the state. So, and I'm proud of what's been done with all the commissions, and Mr. Gold, you said it rightly. Unfortunately, we have a lot of agencies that just don't seem to function too well, and jobs don't get done, and the commission can step into that place, that arena. So I'm quite happy with that. And we have a unique thing in Alaska because of the high cost of fuel, Madam Chairman, that we have a migration problem now that's occurring into Anchorage and Fairbanks and by Alaska Native people because they can't afford to live in the rural areas. And the commission is probably the only way we can solve this by, very frankly, improving living conditions, making sure that there is fuel tanks that have passed the EPA requirements and all the other requirements, which have been very successful, building clinics so that they can have good health care, and you've been quite successful in doing it. So this is overall a successful unit. And I want to compliment the whole commission. I will say that I have had some worries about the commission over the years because you are out in the open. In this Congress, we have a tendency to attack that person. The single bull is the one that usually gets shot, not the one that's in the herd. So we have to consider that as we go through this business. But I have three questions, Madam Chairman, if I can, to Mr. Niedermeyer. Does the Denali Commission complement but does not duplicate the work of other federal government agencies? Do you just...
When yes, sir. When I applied for the position, to me, that was the most exciting part about what the commission can do. Mr. Johnson talked about the grant making with Delta Regional Authority. The grant making is very important, but it's that aspect of working with the state and federal agencies, with the regional corporations in fulfilling village and local community needs. I think it's an important thing from my experience. I've served 25 years as an engineer, mostly in rural Alaska, serving rural Alaska projects. If you don't get that community voice, projects are not well maintained thereafter, and they may not be well thought out. And I think that's where the commission can serve best, to ensure that the community voice is heard. So what I would like to see is that we work with agencies to hear that community voice and develop projects specific to complementing but not duplicating. The state of Alaska, this is an example, recently provided passed legislation for $300 million worth of weatherization upgrades to residential housing all across the state. A lot of the housing work, a lot of those energy efficiency projects that are being done are done by construction crews that have received training dollars from the Denali Commission. So the Denali Commission can't take credit for the state's good work of that $300 million. But what we can say is that $300 million has gone farther because those crews are trained. It is those kind of opportunities we need to look for, how we can complement but not duplicate the other agencies that I look forward to working on.
This is a follow-up question. You partially answered. The Commission's programs have resulted in economic development, job creation, and growth. And you just hit upon some of that because you've tied in with the state in their weatherization program by using some of your dollars to train the people to go ahead and do the work. So this has been a benefit not just for projects, but actually for their future employment.
Yes, sir. One of the things that the training program that we had in the very beginning, we targeted opportunities for projects that we funded. In other words, if we're building a rural bulk fuel project, we provided training for welders and so on and so forth. Now, those are short duration jobs. They may last the length of the project, but what we're hopeful for is that those individuals who receive that training then have the skill sets when other construction projects come in their town. They would be successful in competing for those jobs. The other part of it is there are some projects, especially the clinic projects, where you're not dealing with a commodity such as storing fuel or electricity. You're actually dealing about people. People are providing the service. And so we have a very successful program with the University of Alaska to provide training for allied health careers for individuals to serve in those small community clinics.
Madam Chairman, if I could, I hope that you, in the position of the chair, would take in requests from the Speaker an airplane. And maybe you can come to the state of Alaska and not only visit the grandiose mountains, but go out and see some of the challenges my people have in an area that's huge. There's no highways, it's all air travel, boat travel, and adverse conditions, and how they have adapted, but how well the Commission has done their work and the benefits from it, which wouldn't have been done if the Commission didn't exist. And if you haven't been up there, I would urge you to set up a trip. And I'm not on the committee, but maybe I can show you around. If you don't want me, you can go on your own. But come on my state and sort of, I get to see your area all the time. So you owe me one. Thank you, Madam Chairman. Thank you.
A good friend that I would love to come, especially if your wife will help guide me, who's also a good friend, who knows these areas very well. And I have been to Alaska only once and saw Alaska when it was a different time of day and night there than it was anywhere else in the world. But I have never been to some of course I was to the part of Alaska, the capital, which is not unlike other capital cities in some respects. But I'm impressed with what you speak of, the need to get an understanding. You know, there's poverty and there's isolation, and then there's Alaska, where you have tribes who most Americans know nothing about, know nothing of their way of life or their particular challenges, talking about tailoring. If we want to be helpful here, because we're not trying to wean people from their way of life, we're simply trying to bring them some of what they're entitled to as Americans. So I do think that in this committee, perhaps even a site hearing at some point might be in order, considering how very different Alaska is. Now, before I go any further, and I know it would revert to me, but I'm going to ask Mr. Kyle if he has any questions.